Welcome back to A Celtic State of Mind. It's 12:30, so without delay, we will get started. I'm Paul John Dykes, and today I'm delighted to be joined. We do have a full house. We've got Kevin Graham down the bottom there. We've got Asim Rabbani, top right, and we have Jerry Taylor just about to join us for a solid back four, I would suggest. There he is.
There he is.
Jerry, how are you, sir? You good?
I'm all right. I like to do what Celtic do and leave it late.
Yeah, bring in. Oh, I like that. A wee bit of the merch as well. Bringing in the merch.
That's
Talking.
That's what your missus says as well, Jerry.
Oh, it started already.
Well, 38 seconds
already.
in. That wasn't a euphemism, either.
And there you go. There's the klaxon. What I would say, talking about late finishes, Asim, that jersey you've got on does bring back some great memories of late finishes, doesn't it?
Yeah, one in particular was that I remember I was at the game, Killie away, Nakamura, 90 plus minutes, free kick to win the title under Gordon Strachan. So I thought it was a bit fitting to, and it's one of my favourite away tops as well. It's this one, and while I was digging that out, I found this belter as well, which is probably one of my other favourite tops from that era, previous era, and it's signed by a certain number 19 at the time. So I'm sure the guys in the comments will know who that is, but he was one of my favourite midfielders of that generation as well. So I just bringing out some of the old classics.
You've got to, sometimes you've got to. And by the way, talking of classics, there's a few on the shelves behind me. I was doing my wander around Paradise this morning where I met up with Jamie Tierney Senior. Also, the wee guy was there, and his mummy, Bobby, was there as well. So tune in tonight, 6 o'clock. We update on Jamie and how things are going with that, with the fundraising. It was great to see him after skinning his dad for about 90 quid at the superstore up the Celtic way with a wee football kicking it about at 9 o'clock this morning. Absolutely tremendous to see. We're going to be joined here for the next hour with all you guys in the comments to talk about Celtic. It's been a difficult, topsy-turvy season. And you probably get a sense when you watch A Celtic State of Mind that there's some of us who are very much on the positive kind of train, and some others who are very realistic, and others who just, honestly, they just think the world's about to end. And by the way, we'll try and meet in the middle somewhere. Jerry, you have been called Mr. Positivity. By the way, did we find out, was it Ben Hutchinson or Killian Sheridan that wore that jersey behind you? Who was that?
That's why I've put it up, because if anyone doesn't know the backstory, I come to my mate's house, Sean's, right? And he's like, "Oh, I've got a Celtic." He's not a big football fan. He says, "Oh, I've got a Celtic top up in the loft that I got from my Moz," and he's brought it down in the frame. And I was like, "Mate, that's a player's top that's signed." I was thinking maybe Scott McDonald, AC Milan, or something like that. Mm-hmm. So, you ready?
The big review.
There it is. He just signed for Queen's Park.
I was going to say, he's still playing, isn't he?
Yeah, he does. He still plays. Yeah. We're off to a flyer. Jerry getting it tight from Kev, and a wee mention for Killian Sheridan. We're going to be talking, obviously, about the here and now, what happened at the weekend. I've seen a wee video of Kevin Graham celebrating unbridled joy, Kev. That's what it brings to you, this football club, doesn't it?
Aye, it does, and sometimes you try to, cage it a wee bit and all that, and you go, I'm 48, I shouldn't really be reacting to 16-year-old Motherwell Ultras, the way that video shows me reacting to 16-year-old Motherwell Ultras. But that's what happens, And look, we're in a bit of a dodgy situation. It's a situation that we didn't want to be in, but you may as well take some semblance of joy out of it and just accept the situation that you're in and go, right, we're chasing. We may as well enjoy chasing, I often like to think of the folk in the Titanic when it was sinking, going like that. At least we got on a big ship and had a decent breakfast and just enjoyed that moment, and thought about it, So I really enjoyed yesterday. I thought our second half performance actually deserved it. I would have been disappointed to come away with a draw, not just for the wider picture, but I think we looked like a team for a wee bit in that second half yesterday, and that's something we probably haven't looked like since the 30th of December. Truthfully, we've never looked like a side. The amount of work the older guys in that team, the more experienced guys in that team put in, I don't know what it looked like on the telly, but you looked at like guys like Callum McGregor, Greg Taylor, Alistair Johnson. The amount of work they put in yesterday was phenomenal, and they guys weren't lined in. And yes, Greg Taylor didn't have a great game. He never had at one point. And the two fullbacks for me were immense yesterday because they got absolutely key-off for the two guys in front of them. So they had to do a big job on the wings yesterday. And the same with Matt O'Reilly. If you have a wee look at Matt O'Reilly's heat map, which I did, you know what I mean? I'm getting into the stats.
Kevin, just can I interrupt, because Kev, you've gone through a journey when it comes to data and heat maps and all that, and charts and expected goals. You were the absolute opposite of that. You thought that was absolute jargon and nonsense. But over the 7-year period, you've embraced it. You've got a flip chart. You've got a Noble board. You're right into it now, aren't you?
I pay £200 a year for a top of the range stats database and that as well. No, I just wanted to have a look at the Matt O'Reilly stats yesterday, because I thought he had a great last 15 minutes yesterday. And it's noticeable of our midfield three. Matt O'Reilly is the only one that does anything whatsoever bar the 18-yard box. The other two of them sit quite deep or on the edge of the 18-yard box. But Matt O'Reilly is the only one that seems to break that line forward. But what was interesting yesterday, and I think this was more down to Kone in front of him, was Matt O'Reilly had to do a hell of a lot of work in his own half.
Yeah.
Especially in that first half yesterday. And you can actually see it by where he walked, the areas that he was in. Aye, the two fullbacks, Matt O'Reilly and Iwata, they completely worked their socks off. The big fella that came on up front worked his socks off. But that first half, lads, that was absolutely dreadful. That was a carry on for the last half hour against Kilmarnock the week before.
Yeah,
it was like 11 guys that had just been thrown together and gone. It's like, I remember my Sunday League days, and the manager would come in and go, right,
here we go. The Sunday League days. Kev, you'd have made it if it wasn't for that dodgy elbow. You're one of them.
The manager would come in and go like that, right? Who's sober enough to play today, lads? Kevin, you're a sub. I mean, again, that was going to happen anyway, but that's what that first half was like yesterday. It was absolutely dreadful. But as I say, I was quite happy with the second half. We got the 3 points, last minute winner. I'll enjoy that moment. It might mean nothing, but hey, I had a good day yesterday. That's it.
Well, see, on a Monday, Kev, you're joining the Monday regulars here, the Monday Ultras, and we try and gauge the mood every Monday, Asim. And we're talking about a title run-in, a title charge, a title fight, a dog fight. Jim Orr spoke about it brilliantly on Friday, and we said every Monday we're going to gauge the mood. There's been ups and downs already, Asim, but people are saying don't let yesterday mask the deficiencies and all this kind of stuff. See, at the same time, as well as analysing it to death, Asim, enjoy it when you get that win. I mean, that was a 94th and a 96th minute winning goal or a couple of goals in injury time. You've got to enjoy that as a football fan, and then you can analyse it afterwards.
100%. I think yesterday kind of encompasses what it's been like for so much of this season. Just I know the word roller coaster, turning point, you can bring them all in, but as Kevin was saying there, the first half was probably up there, another contender for one of the worst halves of the season in a season where there's been so many, but it was just so insipid. It was so lacking in desire, hunger, everything that we thought we might see, but we just didn't again. And at half-time, 1-0 down, I was one of them that I was thinking, right, okay, if we don't turn this around, the manager potentially needs to go tonight. And that's quite extreme for me, who's kind of backed them for quite a while and said that, look, there's a lot of other issues at play here. But for us to then put in that kind of first half performance, honestly, it was boring to watch. You were just getting angry watching it because of how bad it was. But what the second half turnaround for me showed, which was different to, for example, the Hibs late winner, was the performance. It wasn't by any means full of quality or absolutely brilliant play. But there was a hunger, there was an intensity right from the second half all the way through to the point where going into that second half, I didn't think we had it in us. See, from what we've seen over the last couple of months, I did not think we had it in us to turn that around. Because you look at any other games where we've gone behind or chasing a game in the last 20 minutes, we've never really looked like scoring. But yesterday felt a bit different because we were creating chances, we were playing with hunger, we were playing with tempo, intensity. CCV coming back makes such a difference. So I enjoyed yesterday's late winner a lot more than I did the Hibs one, because the Hibs one did feel like it was papering over the cracks. It felt like we just lucked out and then we followed it up with another poor performance. yesterday it felt like we deserved that win, as Kev said. It felt like, you know what, that was coming. We were still continuing to create. We were playing with like the Yang, I thought, made a big difference. So as much as I don't want to get overboard and too excited and say turning point, because we've been there before, but I think we can take encouragement from the manner of the second half performance, which was different to what we've seen before. We've not seen this team come back from behind where they've been really struggling and then to turn it around in that way. So for me, that speaks to the mentality, which I didn't think was there. It shows that they've still got the fight. It shows that we've still got something about us. And I think going into this midweek, that was huge for us to... Brendan spoke about the difference between it being 2 points and 4 points. I don't buy into that. I think that was a must win if we're wanting to cling on any hope of this title race. So I think keeping it at 2 with them to go to Kilmarnock in midweek, that was huge. And of course, the elation at the end, you've seen it on the players, you've seen it on the fans. We've seen the video of Kev. We've seen Declan from the chat as well, put in his pictures. That's what it's all about. That emotion, that unbridled joy is what makes it so much fun being a football fan. And we've got to enjoy that.
I was saying that just over the weekend, Jerry, that where else can you get away with behaving like that? If you did it in the street, you get locked up. Screaming, shouting, singing, dancing, the whole shebang. And even at 48, Kevin does it well. And I'll tell you something with regards to the character. We talk about all these things. Sometimes they just sound like buzzwords, don't they? Character, mentality, state of mind, all that kind of stuff. But, at half-time there, someone has suggested that Brendan Rodgers must have played the players' Jim Orr's video from Friday. There we go. Here we go. John Mullane. Can we get a shout out for Jim's speech on Friday? It must have been at half-time yesterday. If you've not seen it, go and have a look. It was brilliant. And I don't think he was trying to be motivational and all that, Jerry, but he's the one that calls you Mr. Positivity. I'm going to ask you, though, going into, the injury time period against Kilmarnock, I actually there was a feeling of impending doom against Kilmarnock. I didn't have the same feeling against Motherwell yesterday. I felt, there's a different feel, a different dynamic about the team in the second half yesterday, Jerry. I don't know what you felt.
Absolutely. It's the first time that we've got any added injury time. I actually turned to the missus and went, we've got 6 minutes to do this. I think you even messaged me, Paul John, you messaged me, we're going to win this. Right? There was just a feeling about it, which is totally different from, like you said, with the Hibs games or the Kilmarnock game, any other game. Was it St Johnstone back early on as well? And we just thought there was like 8 minutes or something added on. Yeah. Well, there was more chance that we thought they were going to score. Going back, when you're saying about the first half, it's genuinely probably one of the worst halves I've seen Celtic play in a long time, not just this season. For me, I've never seen so many misplaced passes in my life. The thing I was holding on to, it wasn't a tactical issue in the first half, it was a quality issue because the balls were all over the place. They didn't know what they were doing at times. But that second half for me, was great. It gave us that positive feel. It looked like they were all together, and see the way they celebrated the goals at the end. You can't tell me that's a broken dressing room. It was unreal. And I saw somebody try to say, "Oh, do you see Callum McGregor telling off Palmer for taking his shirt off? Have you seen that one?"
I've seen it. Yeah.
He's actually up going, "Yes, get in, well done." It's one of those almost aggressive well dones. And that's what we want to see. Mm-hmm. So I just felt we were going to do it, and it's the first time I've had that feeling in a number of weeks. And I'm not going to say turning point. It's definitely a bit of a swivel for us, if you can say that. And I'm not going to say every game is going to be like a cup final, but every game we play now is going to be like one of those games at Hampden where you win a trophy at the end of it. So it's going to be like, I've been here for a while. I've been saying for probably a couple of months now, it's going to be a hurdle race. We'll smash into some of the hurdles. We'll leap over some of them. And I'm here for it all because see that feeling at the end yesterday, I've not felt that in a while. And I don't think I've celebrated a goal or the third goal the way that I have. The two has jumped off the couch and literally embraced for about 15, 20 seconds because it was a relief, joy, ecstasy, all the lot. So, yeah, I really do think it's going to catapult us. It's going to be a catalyst. We've got to turn it at some point. It's different from the other games. There's so many more positives to take. But I'm happy. I'm still buzzing after it.
You're here for it, Jerry. You're here for the ups and the downs. That's what Jim was saying there on Friday. You know, we had this. Listen, some people would argue we've been dominating Scottish football since Martin O'Neill walked in the door in 2000. I don't disagree with that. I think there's been little sprinklings of trophies for any team playing out of Ibrox. There was the 3 in a row period. That was Strachan's last season's, Mowbray's season, and then Lenny's first season. Other than that, Celtic have dominated. So there is this sense that a lot of people, I think, I've got so used to winning leagues without this proper blood and guts title fight element to it, Asim, whereby we're at that business end of the season. All the cliches are coming out today, Jerry, by the way. Oh, we're at the business end of the season. And it gets to the point where you'll chuck everything at getting the win. But there was a bit of style. I mean, you know, if you look at the first half compared to the second half, the whole thing, the whole dynamic of Celtic's play changed. You looked at Greg Taylor and Johnston, who's already been picked up with Kev there, and how they were able to actually push higher up the park. Obviously, the first goal came from a brilliant through ball by Greg Taylor. It wasn't just a hopeful punt. It was a brilliant assist by Greg Taylor. But you've seen Alistair Johnston doing it as well. They seem to have a wee bit more freedom. I think a big part of that was the change of Kone to Yang. Kone was like a man down in the first half. But also Carter Vickers comes on and completely changes that as well. Gives Johnston a wee bit of freedom down the right as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, I thought Johnston had one of his best halves in quite a while. You know, he's been so off form, but Taylor's assist was brilliant. But I think it was just immediately you've seen us playing the ball with more aggression, playing it forward a lot quicker. And what that does then is push the opposition further back. So you've seen Motherwell gradually retreating further and further, becoming less of a threat on the break themselves. And look, see in this league, we spoke about it a lot. If you kind of play with an intensity and a tempo, by and large, we're going to have the better players than most of these teams. We're going to get results. The problem's been for too many games is the speed of play that we're playing at. We spoke about it for quite a while. We know that we're lacking in quality in certain areas. That's not going to suddenly change overnight. But if you still play at a greater intensity in your game, you're going to make these teams retreat further back. And that's what I felt like, the way Jerry was saying, you felt the goal was coming because Motherwell couldn't get out. You felt that we're going to keep creating these chances. I think Adam Ada was a big difference as well. You know, he was a focal point. I think Rodgers called him like a reference, which it was the case because for whatever reason, we just don't seem to utilise Kyogo. We spoke about it so much. We're obviously not getting the best out of him. But with Ida there, you've seen both fullbacks were able to find him. Yang just made such a big difference because Kone, for me, like, you don't want to be too harsh on someone who's only came in, but we've seen 5-6 appearances where he's shown absolutely nothing whatsoever. Not one kind of characteristic which you can be like, this guy's got something. So look, we'll give him further time, but he's clearly not ready to start these games at the moment. And Maeda on the other side, he's another one that continues to frustrate me because you've seen that cross, the one, and then the miss sitter as well. We know that he's going to do that, but I just feel like he's not doing enough. But the issue is we've not really got a lot of good alternatives at the moment. Palmer coming on, hopefully the goal will do him a bit of confidence. But the point you mentioned about Carter Vickers, for me, that could be a key part of the running. He makes such a difference to the back line, both on the ball and off the ball. You've seen it when he just brushes off, I think it was Theo Bayer in the second half, whereas Theo Bayer was causing absolute havoc on both scales in Nawrocki. CCV can just deal with that with confidence. It gives the rest of the team confidence as well, because when you know you've got him back there, we just play with an added freedom. And even on the ball, I feel like he's so much better at picking passes, playing with a speed. If we can keep him fit, you just feel so much more secure about us in the back line. And then when we play with a bit more speed to our game going forward, you feel that we can start scoring goals. The true test whether this is going to be a turning point will be this next 2 games, because we've seen it so many times. We've watched it, other games, and then we follow up with a poor result, a poor performance. Dundee's a great fixture for us now on Wednesday. I really, really hope that we can go in there. I know everyone's going to say it's all about the 3 points, but you really now want to see us win a game comfortably. We've not done that since the winter break, other than the St Mirren away, which even then we conceded loads of chances in. So I think this next 2 games will really tell us where we're at before we can really say that was a momentous kind of victory, and the manner of it really has an impact going forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
What pleased me, Asim, in the second half was, even though players, you look at the first half, nobody wanted the ball. There was bits that nobody wanted the ball, whatsoever. They were taking throw-ins, we're standing there, nobody moving whatsoever.
Twice on a throw-in, Kev.
Aye.
Taylor had nobody.
moved.
It was terrible.
And
All season, the throw-ins have been an issue. They've been taking so long to take them, going from getting smashed in. Taylor dilly-dallies a lot on the throw-ins, I've noticed.
But what you can actually see is if we match the work rate and intensity of our opponents, our quality eventually is going to come through. And I think that's where the more experienced players came into the game yesterday. Even though they weren't having great games, they kept on demanding that ball in the second half, knowing if we match that team's work rate, we'll eventually get through here. And I think that's what actually came through. And that's what most impressed me. No, Callum McGregor wasn't fantastic. No, Matt O'Reilly wasn't the Matt O'Reilly before Madrid started sniffing about him, but they had something about them yesterday that they haven't had for the last couple of weeks, and it wasn't great, it wasn't brilliant, but I'm willing to take the work rate now and go.
I'm glad you mentioned those two players, Kev, because I've seen quite a bit of criticism, particularly for Callum coming. We all know Matt O'Reilly's been off form, but see, for me, for these final games, 100%, I want Callum in there. There's been people saying maybe we need to drop him. He's not having a great season. His form can be off, but he's a guy that's going to constantly demand the ball. He's a guy that's going to take the ball under pressure. He is still a leader. He's been there. He's done it. He knows what it takes. Whether his form is there's nobody's setting the header light in this team.
No.
So it's not like you've got other guys coming in like Bernardo maybe a few weeks ago where he put a stake into, but nobody's really doing that. So I want players like Taylor, McGregor, O'Reilly, even Alison Johnson, guys that have been there and know that. And like Kev said, yesterday I felt they all made a difference in the second half without being brilliant, without McGregor being his blatant best, but he's going to constantly want the ball. You don't want people hiding. This is not the time for players to go hiding. So whether they and again, it's why even Palmer, for example, I think for all his flaws, he still tries things. I know you've not been his biggest fan either, Kevin. I've not recently as well, but I feel like Kone yesterday showed me a player who's truly hiding. Who doesn't want the ball, and we can't afford that. We can't afford that.
The amount of times in the first half, Alistair Johnson was absolutely tearing his mask off him because he just didn't move, or he made the wrong one all the time in that. And it is frustrating, and you could actually notice the difference on the right hand side when Yang came there and gave Johnson that option. And this is where O'Reilly came into it and started moving up the pitch, because he didn't need to actually overcompensate for Kone out that side. And again, they weren't brilliant, they weren't great, they weren't world beaters, but it was just actually shown that they've got a wee bit of appetite, gave me not a lot of hope. It could just be kicking the can down the road, we all know that, but I've came this morning and I'm looking forward to the Dundee game. Brilliant. It could be terrible. We could have half an hour of absolutely disgusting football like the first 45 minutes. But who knows? We didn't again.
This is part of the issue we've had all season, is you never know what version of the Celtic side is going to turn up. I mean, we have seen moments. We've seen moments this season where you think, oh, we've got it right. And then there's other performances like yesterday, even in the second half, which wasn't perfect, but it was the type of performance we needed to get through that game and get the 3 points. Dundee, I think, we're now... people might deny it in the comments. People might disagree with it in the comments. I think you've always got one eye on the other fixture as well. So you're looking at ours and you're thinking, right, there is an opportunity here to get a few goals back, because you never know, it might come down to goal difference and we're kind of lagging behind on that as well. And then you're hoping and praying that something can happen elsewhere. If it doesn't, it's fine. It's still in our hands. What did you make, Jerry, of the comments Brendan Rodgers made about the 4 points? It was no big deal to him, he says. Because I'm listening to everything he says, and I'm thinking to myself, sometimes he'll be saying things that he doesn't actually mean, but he's saying it so that there's no panic in the dressing room, because he's talking to a group of players all week. You can't then go out and say, oh, that would have been a disaster if we went 4 points behind, can he?
Yeah. He's taking the pressure off his team. I think he's not trying to kind of tell the fans this. I think if he says to his team, right, we need to win every single game now, right, that's added pressure. All he's saying is, look, I wouldn't have been too worried. He probably would have been, but it's the sound bites that his team need to hear, I think, as opposed to the fans. I can get why some fans are annoyed. If there was a 4 point difference, I would have been upset. I wouldn't have been giving up. But I'm glad it's just 2. I think we're all getting kind of hung up. Not all of us. A lot of people getting hung up, like you said, because it's like we're used to winning. We're used to it, but it's 2 points. We've still got to play them. We played them twice, actually. Still got to play them twice. Still got to play them twice. And despite what David Tanner said on Twitter, did you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Celtic could win all their games and still win the title. And he went, yeah, so could but not if Rangers win all their games. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. They won't win all their games if we win another game. Anyway, I'm not too worried. I think because it was so heated with a lot of people after the game, just by going by the first half performance, they didn't want to hear him say that. But I do understand why. He's taking the pressure off the team. I'm here for it. I keep saying it. I'm here for it all.
Well, Brendan Rodgers' kind of post-match press conferences, we could probably fill an entire hour talking about him Asim this season, because he's bemused us in equal measure at times with regards to the signings were his, then there weren't enough quality. As I say, we could speak about it all day. Obviously, the one that's making the headlines, and it's always the way, it's like, they're always going to try and jump on Brendan and criticise him, criticise Celtic, is his comments with Jane Lewis. I mean, what does Brendan do about these comments that he made? And obviously, a lot has been made of them. What do you think, Asim? Does he just come out, hold his hands up and say, listen, I'm sorry? Because he doesn't like saying sorry, does he? He said that when he was made manager the second time round.
My take on it, people might disagree. I think a lot's being made of it. I think it was condescending, patronising. Yes, I think he intended it to be. But this narrative of it being sexist per se, I don't know. We can't answer for that. That's, Rodgers will know his own motive behind that. But I think it was more like he didn't like the line of questioning. He felt he'd already explained himself. And he was being patronising and condescending with it. People are saying he wouldn't, I don't know, I don't have any evidence, but it's similar if he was asked by a kind of male journalist something and he was trying to shoot them down, he might at the end be like, good lad, or something along those lines, and nobody would make too much of it. It was a female reporter, so obviously people are going to jump on that. But personally, it's not a great look. It's not a great look, I would say. But I don't think it's any more than that. I don't think he needs to come out and apologise for it or make a big deal of it. I genuinely think, it's similar when Ange would sometimes patronise someone, with his mates and all that, in certain comments. And there was a guy from Clyde that used to get it quite a lot from him. And he
Who is that poor guy? The minute he opened his mouth, you thought to yourself, oh, Ange's going to take him out here. Honestly,
it was I think it was Gabriel from Clyde, but it was always him. It was always him that was getting it. But Ange did that as well. And look, the way it came out, maybe I know it's like I say, it's not a great look, but I don't buy into the whole it was sexist and it's shocking and he needs to come out and apologise. Like I said, I think he wanted to be patronising and condescending. So if he needs to apologise for that, that's people's take on it. Misogynist and sexist, I don't subscribe to that.
Well, he called me a good boy at the Rocks game.
He did, aye.
He says good boy, because I was about to go on and I told him about the history of how it became Acsom and how this was a big day for me, and he was like, good boy.
I'm not telling you what he called me. Kev, I'm going to ask you, Kev, because I think Asim raises a really good point. For 2 years, Ange Postecoglou condescended quite a few reporters. And, it became almost like a point of humour for a lot of us on Acsom talking about it all the time, because you would go into a press conference in the fan media sense and hope that he didn't call you mate. And if he did, what kind of tone of voice did he use and all this kind of stuff? But the minute, obviously, Brendan Rodgers has done it and it's Jane Lewis who's asking the questions, it just blows up. Kev, what do you make of it? I think Asim makes a really good point there that, managers do it all the time. And I think, was there not an occasion where Derek McInnes, kind of a big, massive issue was made of Derek McInnes talking to Ailey Barber a couple of seasons back, saying it was a stupid question or whatever, and people were saying he wouldn't say that, it was a bloke that was talking to him. Yeah. There seems to be a huge focus on this, Kevin. It's almost as if they are looking for a reason to dig out Brendan Rodgers.
It's no Joey Barton, ain't it?
No, it's nowhere near that level. Exactly.
It's not Mark Letizia, Joey Barton meltdown, eh? You hear a number of interviews with him when he goes, good lad, when he's walking away and and it's something that he says and it comes across condescending, always does, even when he does it to male reporters. It's something that he done. But I agree with Asim there. When I was played it, I'm going, there's nothing up with that. There's absolutely nothing up with that whatsoever. I just couldn't believe it. It's like something, as you say, Paul, I think it's a witch hunt. I really do. I don't think it has anything. I mean, it's made independent. It's online independent. It made Talk Sport. I didn't see nothing in it, and I'll be the first one to call out anybody if I thought that there was anything sinister behind it, like Joey Barton and that same stuff, who are out for offence, out to really cause an offence. But nah, that was just a heat of the moment, and it's a put down that he does to every reporter when he doesn't like the line of questioning. It's the same as Postecoglou's mate. He's done it to male reporters, so he's went, good lass. It doesn't sound good, does it? It doesn't sound good. Girl doesn't sound. It doesn't actually sound good. But it's I'm not into it. I'm not into it. I don't think there's anything in it.
I was disappointed at first when I heard it, but when I heard the context and heard the interview, I was same as you, Kev. I was a bit like, well, what's apparently what you don't hear. I'm not too sure. I need to try and find this because you can hear there's a proper edit, right? Apparently, she kept pushing to talk about the first half. She just kept wanting to talk about the first half instead of the end result. And I think that's what was getting him. And he's like, this is the narrative we're talking about, basically. And he's like, I know what you're getting at. So, it's a bit of a storm in a teacup, if you ask me. However, I don't want people thinking, that I'm glorifying if anyone is chauvinistic, etc., or anything like that. But I just didn't see it in that. And like I said, he's called me a good boy before. I saw a woman put on Twitter under the post. She went, I'm seeing a lot of men saying that this was sexist, but I've not seen a lot of women say it, So it just seems to be a lot of certain fans, groups and things like that. So we'll see how it goes.
If he feels anything, I think it'll probably come out. He'll probably speak to Jane Lewis, and that'll be it. It'll be sorted. And
all he needs to do is walk into his first press conference, the next one, and go, hello, boys and girls.
Well done, Jerry. Good lad.
Always remember, he also called you a top goalkeeper, Jerry. Let's not forget that.
I know.
Goalkeeper, Jerry. Good lad.
Yeah, good lad. We had quite a few of the long kind of term injured players coming back, Asim. I mean, Taylor came back in the other week there, and obviously Alistair Johnston came back with his Batman mask. Jerry told us about that before the game, even though I hadn't seen it, and I wasn't sure what the Batman reference was, Jerry. I wasn't sure if he was going to come on the tape.
Comes back the drink.
He quickly removed it, though. You know this, there was a moment, and by the way, hear me out, right? There was a moment where he's almost ran into Kone. I don't know if you saw this, guys, right? So, he's trying to find a line and overlap Kone, and he almost runs into him. And then about 2 minutes later, the mask is off. So I don't know if it was actually affecting his vision, but he's taken it off anyway. So Alistair Johnston's back, CCV, massive, Asim. These guys, and obviously it's in the post that Hatate will come back as well. How massive is it to get that type of player back in this side?
Yeah, 100%, because a lot's been spoken about, it's a treble-winning squad, and we've got the players there, but we have been missing a lot of our quality players for large periods of this season. So we've had to rely on a back four that we've spoke about so much, which is just not Celtic quality. When you put all four of them in at once, one or two of them coming in to replace can be fine. But when you've got a whole back four and we've had Alistair Johnston, CCV, and Taylor out in the last few weeks all at once, then that does lead to a really kind of shaky back line and that kind of anxiety and stuff that Rodgers has been talking about. But having CCV in himself, I think, is the major one for me. He honestly does make such a difference to it. And we've seen that over the course of the last 3 seasons now. Whoever plays beside him tends to improve. The whole back line as a unit tends to improve. So I think him being the number one. And then Hatate, we've been out without him for so long. Now, it might take him a while to get up to speed, but to have him in the running, maybe for the last 7-8 games, that could make such a difference in that midfield, because he's the one guy who can take the ball on the half turn, make things happen, play those risky passes that we've all been saying that we've not been doing. He takes risks. He's got the energy, the dynamism. He can score. Granted, look, he was kind of at the start of the season, he was on and off form, but he wasn't getting a game. If you remember, at the start of the season, we were opting for Turnbull ahead of him. Then he came into a bit of form, and then has just kind of been injury prone since. So, as much as we don't like the phrase new signing, but just having a player like him come in for the last 7-8 games of a season could make such a difference in our form. Because I remember last season when you had him missing and you added it to Jota, I think there was a wee spell where both of them were missing, and we really didn't look the same side even then. So 100% when you've got your key players back in, Alistair Johnston, like I said, that second half hopefully is a catalyst for him now to kind of pick up his form. And he's another guy who I just like having in the team, just because I feel like he's got the right mentality. whether the quality's not been there, as we were alluding to earlier, now at this stage of the season, it's going to really come down to mentality that's going to win this league more so than the quality, because there's not really a lot of games left. It's just we should be beating most of these other teams that we play week in, week out. And if we play with that kind of right mentality and intensity that we've seen in the second half, we should be able to wear a lot of them down. Add that to these players coming back, and again, I don't think we've spoke about him yet properly, and we probably will go on to, but Adam Ida for me, he came in and I was one of them when the signing was announced, and of course we back every signing that we get, but you're just looking on paper and you listen to Sutton's kind of words about him before, and you're like, okay, I don't know, can we really be excited about this? But he's came in and won us 4 points in the dying minutes of games, crucial 4 points. People spoke about it, he's not scored from open play. Well, he's put that to bed yesterday with 2 quality goals. And yeah, there's no wonder that everyone's kind of been singing his praises, and I think he's a sure on to start the next 2 games, because you're looking at Tynecastle. Well, I'm not even going to look at Tynecastle yet, but you just look at the kind of fixtures that we've got coming up. I think he's exactly the kind of guy we need up there.
Oh, he definitely is, and I think we should spend some time talking about him, Asim, because I've said this before, and this isn't just because he scored a couple of goals there. Both Kone and Ida probably suffered from the fact that there was a disappointment in large, Jerry, of the whole transfer window. It wasn't just the fact that these 2 guys came in, and I think they probably got the kind of the brunt of it, because we were disappointed in the lack of players coming in the door. But when you're looking at them, it looks as though at the moment Kone is quite a bit off it. Yang is obviously 6 months ahead of him in terms of his Celtic development, and it shows. But when you look at Adam Ida and you look at his minutes, I'm just looking at this at the moment, 294 minutes, 4 goals so far, 2 from open play, 2 from the penalty spot. And he's also credited with an assist as well. So he's doing magnificently well. But one thing that I've got to point out is the way that that ball was flighted in. We've been flighting balls in like that all season. Palma has been flighting balls in like that all season. And we've not gotten the end yet. And I've said it before, you've got journeyman midfielders for the lower trenches of the English league, playing for teams like Ross County, Livingston, Dundee, Motherwell, who'll just lap it up all day. They'll header these balls out all day long, Jerry. And I was disappointed when Wee James came on and spoke about, sorry, am I being condescending by calling him Wee James? When he came on and he was speaking about the fact that we shouldn't think that Adam Ida is going to be the answer to that, because he's not, brilliant, in terms of his aerial prowess. I'll tell you something, that's the first time in a while, actually, since Kilmarnock, because Ralston flighted a ball in and Kyogo scored a header. But that seems to be the first time in a while that we've got a striker who can get on the end of that, Jerry. And, when Chris Sutton is giving him massive plaudits, haven't doubted him, as Asim says, because ex-Norwich player, he's talking about the quality of that leap, that the athleticism, the physicality, the header, everything about it was brilliant. Does he start on Wednesday night? Does he have a starter's jersey for you, Jerry?
You've got to now. You've got to look at how the game changed. Motherwell defence looked rattled when he came on, because his hold-up play was excellent. It was so good.
Yeah.
Who'd have thought putting a big over 6 foot striker would work when we're putting balls into the box all the time? It's been a big frustration. You can't blame Kyogo for that, for his height. He's not there to hold the ball up. He's there to make movement into the spaces. And when Ida came on, we can all see what it did. It freed up a lot of the other players on the pitch as well to do what they need to do. So obviously, Kyogo has been an absolute brilliant servant, but if he's not fitting into the way we're playing just now, and it's what we need to do to go over the line, then we're going to have to use him as a substitute, or out in the left or right. If he can, was it the left he likes to play in, Kyogo?
It can play either. It can play
either way. So I think Ida's going to be our main striker for the rest of the season, I think. But then again, you can never call it with Rodgers. You think that somebody's cemented their place, but then he might revert back. He might think that bringing him on as an impact player is better, but then he wasn't really impact. He brought him on at half time, didn't he? So, yeah, I don't know. Is the shoulder injury getting to do with it? Did he say anything to do with that, or was it just down to Kyogo wasn't getting any of the ball? Aye.
Well, he was holding his shoulder, wasn't he? But there didn't seem to be much in that particular incident. But I've not seen anything. Let us know in the comments if it's been confirmed that he was. He
mentioned the knock, but kind of then went on to say it was tactical and said we weren't really getting. It wasn't his kind of game. he likes to go in behind, and we weren't able to do that, and he wanted kind of Ida as a reference point. Again, I don't know if he's trying to. It was more so the injury, but it's kind of he's wanting to take the credit for it. But either way, it worked.
It wasn't even just Ida's finishing. It was just the goals he scored. It was how emphatic his finishes were that I liked. They were so crisp and clean. That header was outstanding. That was a brilliant header, and to keep the ball low as well, that late on in the game to get the winner, it just shows you he's got the metal. He's got the bottle. Another thing that shows you he's got that, like you said, when he came in, we were a lot of us were going nuts, like, who's this guy and blah, 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 and it's going to have an impact. Him and Kone obviously are made of different stuff because he's thrived under it, Ida, whereas Kone seems to have shied away, and he gave us a bit of false hope because they did not get an opener when he first came on. Ida got the assist and he got the opener, so I just think the boys' mentality is exactly what we need for this last part of the season.
I think it's a great point, Jerry. I think it's a great point because they both come on.
Oh, that's a good. I'll come off now. That's me. I'll quit while I'm ahead.
Under the kind of same circumstances, Kevin, insofar as many Celtic fans were disappointed with the window. These two players are getting the brunt of it. Right, it's a test of your mettle. Ida, who's in a short-term loan deal, and everybody was reminding us he's a third-choice Norwich striker, etc., etc. Kone, who came with a wee bit of calibre in terms of the fact that he'd been with Ajax, he'd been with Bayern Munich, Leipzig. And it's all about how they fare. How have they dealt with it? You've got, on one hand, Ida. I've just looked at this because you're obviously the resident stat of the day, Kev. He is now scoring or creating a goal every 59 minutes in a Celtic jersey, which is tremendous. Whereas Kone seems as though he's been posted missing. He got his start at the weekend, and to be fair, he was miles off it. I think the key element here is one that Jerry just mentioned there. It is really about the mentality. Are you up for this battle? Looks like Ida is, and Kone at the moment certainly doesn't look as though he is.
Aye, he doesn't. Ida yesterday, before half-time whistle went and he came onto the park to start warming up. So right away you knew he was coming on at half-time. I found it quite funny post-match when he actually says, aye, we had a wee word in the dressing room at half-time. And I went, you weren't in the dressing room at half-time. You were at the pitch. So, you had already been told, get on that pitch and start getting warmed up because you're going on. The big man came on and he showed metal. I must admit, at half-time, I was in the concourse at Fir Park and I was talking to Paul, our friend Alan Horn, and I says, we're now bringing on Norwich's fourth-choice striker to save our season. Shows you how much I know about football. It really does show you how much I know about football. But you talk about mentality. Yesterday, there was a break in play. I think one of the Motherwell guys went down just at the byline. He was doing for a wee period. I think it was a head knock or whatever it was. And you saw Ida talking to the wingers. You saw him talking to the midfielders to go, we haven't played together that often. This is what I'm going to do and this is where I want the ball. He done it with Yang when Yang came on as well. In the first half, you saw Iwata talking to Scales and Nairoki after the first ball, the second ball out of the top. You could see Iwata going at them, what are you doing? And it was Scales that he was focusing on. He said, you going up, you can't. And it was that, just wee things like that. You saw these guys coming on and taking responsibility as if they go to these boys. You're making mistakes here and I need to cover you. Mm-hmm. Or I'm going to do this, I want you to find me. And that's wee things that you didn't maybe spot on the telly and stuff like that. There's loads of conversations going on. And Iwata and Ida had that yesterday when they came on. That Ida was constantly talking to the two white boys. He was constantly talking to Greg Taylor as if they go, I'm telling you where I want this ball. Because you've never played with me for, this is my 5th game. The training is different to training, eh? And that's the mentality that you actually need. You need to match your team's work rate, and your players have got to have mentality of steel. We're now in the kind of situation where Gordon Strachan was in, and when he won his 3rd title in a row. Basically, the football went out the window, and he brought in 2 mentality monsters in Barry Robson and Paul Hartley, and they carried that team through it. And that's what we're looking for now. We need the performances to be better, but our mentality and our work rate's got to be right. And if guys like Ida and Iwata are going to bring that mentality and that, take that responsibility and actually stand up, then they've got to come in. They have got to come in. And I would play Kyogo on the left-hand side because I don't think we've got anybody else now. I think a lot of folk have actually shot their bolt in that role wide. I think we knew Rodgers has to look into these boys, fight to these guys' eyes and go, are you up for this?
Yep.
Even if you're not playing well, I need a shift at you.
Yeah.
I need you not to hide. That's it.
You're right, because that is the one area of the park now that you're thinking, who is best on the left? If Dyson could finish, absolutely, Robert. And I think unless Brendan Rodgers decides to draft Kyogo out wide, Maeda's going to be playing every game, Kev, because he does give you not always that finished quality, but he does give you that mentality, as you say. And if you're going to try and play all your mentality monsters, I like that, I'm going to nick it, then he's in there for me, even though he missed a couple of absolute sitters. Strangelove, the doctor, points out something very interesting. He does first-headed goal professionally. That's incredible.
Really?
I bet it's not. It'll not be his last this season, by the way. I can see him scoring against Rangers.
Heater with a heater.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, I like that. Patronising and condescending, yes. Sexist, no. I think I would go with that. Yeah, and we'll see how that. Right. Yeah, that's fair. And we've also got William Beattie coming in. McInnes, he had a night off on Wednesday, like Naismith on Saturday. You know what? I think McInnes's ego is such that he probably still thinks he can get the gig at Ibrox at some point in the future, so he'll try his best. Obviously, he came close at some point in his career. Unless we scud Dundee by at least 4, I won't be convinced we have turned the corner. I'm going to go more towards what Kevin Graham says, in that it's all about getting the win. And if we beat them 2-1, Rodgers is just thinking we're just going to win every single game by hook or by crook. Before we move on to anybody else, Asim, Joe Hart, obviously there was the announcement during the week after you and Jerry had been on Monday that he was retiring from professional football. Gave his interview to, was it his kind of like... some kind of coach,
mental coach, I think.
Coach. That because I was wondering who it was, but in the description it explained who that was. Somebody that's he's kind of like confidant. But he's gone out there again, and I think he's earned his spurs. I mentioned it yesterday. A lot of people on the socials are saying these are the types of saves a goalie needs to make. Well, we've seen plenty of goalies not making them.
Yeah.
Big saves Joe Hart's made this season for us, Asim.
And big moments as well. You know, that yesterday was at 1 each, midway through the second half. They're saves that we'd expect our keeper to make, but we've seen that not be the case before. And he's been doing that since the return of the winter break. Every game he's made a crucial save, including Bucky Thistle. I say crucial, but like again, I think it was at 1-0 or 0-0, and he makes a good save. And he's done that in each of the last games. St Mirren away in the cup. And it was, people were questioning the timing of it, but I think it was a good move. You seen the kind of reactions on the social media from the likes of Greg Taylor, which I know some people again were maybe saying, well, do your talking on the pitch, but I think he's that kind of character in the dressing room. He's obviously a popular lad that his colleagues in there will want to give him a good send-off, on top of obviously just for the obvious, we want to win this league, but might give them an added boost and really want him and the players to go off on a high. I think he's been a great signing for us. He came in at a time where a lot of people would have questioned it, but he was exactly what we needed, especially that first season under Ange. We needed someone who was a leader. He was a good shot stopper. He was the perfect character for that dressing room. When we brought in so many new players, he was one of the leaders straight away. You've seen that. Became very likeable with the fans, with his teammates. So I think he's been a brilliant servant. He's had a stellar career, and it would just be great to really finish it off in style for him come May with a double. So here's hoping. But yeah, if you just look at his performances recently, the stats I'm sure will say the same. And even just watching it, you see that he's making important saves at important times. He's not making big mistakes. And if we can carry that on to the end of the season, hopefully that could be a difference in where this title heads.
Yeah, yep, and credit where credit's due. I know that there's a lot of people in the comment section don't like Joe Hart. However, I don't think that we'll look back on his career with anything but admiration for the way that he's performed for Celtic. Joe Henry made his best work his defensive recovery. It is, and that's why I think he'll start every game between now and the end of the season. Daniel F., the defensive work made is so underrated. Always a first pick for me. And
my argument there is we're at home to Dundee.
I was going to say exact same.
Yeah.
That's my argument why I would play Kyle go on the left.
So you should read that defensive. Yeah. And by the way, here's the thing, right? Obviously, I have mentioned in the last couple of weeks the infiltration in the comments section of Union Jack emojis, and people are telling me, get them kicked out, get them kicked out. And if they're being abusive, exactly, that's what's going to happen, right? But, you know, I'm going to bring this up because I think, Jerry, this is pertinent to the discussion around title challenges, title fights, right? Here is the view of Rangers fan. We're a far, far better team than Celtic. Not one of that team talking about Celtic would get in the Rangers team. Yous are rotten, right? This is it. This is for me what we're talking about, a mentality, Jerry, right? If anybody believes that not one Celtic player would get into that Rangers side, I think they're getting a wee bit carried away. And this is what I was talking about the other week when it comes to Brendan Rodgers and a great number of the Celtic players within that team having gone through this before and having the mentality to realise what a title fight entails and how to get through it. I am delighted that that's their attitude, because that is a complacency, it's an arrogance, it's an elitism that I think can actually be part of your downfall. You can fall on that sword quite easily, Jerry.
Yeah, and this is I'm being genuine here. Do you not ever worry that you keep putting your foot in your mouth? It's happened over and over and over again, and we kind of love that. That's the ones you pin up in the dressing room, isn't it? It's like
bookmarked. Absolutely.
It's bookmarked. I mean, somebody's been bookmarking every single one of my tweets all season, right? So I'm ready for it, right? Every single. And if you think it annoys me, you're damn right it is. I want to know who it is. But when it comes to you guys, listen. We've been here before. You've been talking the league for what, a week. There's a long way to go. They've still got Europe to play in. A lot of their team haven't got the experience of being top and being chased. Anything can happen in football. Now, I'm not sitting here saying we're definitely going to win, right? What I will say is I'm confident in our ability to win. I'm confident that most of our players would get in your team. But the difference is just now, you are playing as a team collectively. We've been struggling to do that, even though I do believe the majority of our players are better on paper. Now, that's my opinion as a Celtic fan, and you're entitled to yours as one of their fans.
Didn't give him any credit, man. Didn't give him any credit of very joined up thinking.
I'm not giving him any credit. I'm also not going to bite to it as well. You know, it's football at the end of the day.
Lewis is right. There's some Celtic players shouldn't be in a Celtic team, never mind a Rangers team. That's where we're at the moment. But Lewis, your ferret needs milk. Don't you go?
Plunge McNugget reminds me, because I'm saying, when was the last time you seen somebody rising like a swan? Does a swan rise? Or it's a fish, Billy the fish. Rising like a fish. Exactly, right. And heading a goal. And Plunge says, well, it happened on Saturday, mate. So there you go. That's that right out the window. Strange love the doctor. I don't think what the other side does matters. If Celtic play the way we like them to, no one can stop us. High tempo, two-touch attacking football on the ball, ferocious pressing without. I agree with that. I think that a lot of what Brendan is saying after the game comes right into that way of thinking. It is a mentality. And if your mentality is, we're much better than you and you're lording it up, as Jerry says, you've only been on top of the league for a week. Desmond Tutu, this is what I was going to say. The next person to ask what was on Palmer's shirt has to wear a green mankini and walk down Helen Street on game day. Kev, you ever done that in your darker moments? Possibly.
No.
It took you a while to answer. Right, the DJ of choice. McGregor is off it just now. Iwata showed what a midfielder who plays with no confidence issues is like. Kevin Graham, we've been banging on Acsom about Iwata, and it wasn't a case of we've tried everybody else. Let's not forget about Iwata. He came in at the weekend, and I just thought he slotted in brilliantly. He's got a real kind of calm and composed nature about him on the ball. As you were saying, he's talking to his teammates, some of whom should know what they're doing, but he's giving them advice in game. I think he's really, underrated when it comes to the physical aspect of him, because he's a bull. He absolutely is. And so many times I've seen him breaking down Motherwell attacks. Very, very good short and long passing. He's got a wee bit of creativity about him. I think we found our defensive mid, if we can keep him fit between now and the end of the season, Kevin. It frees up Matt O'Reilly and Callum McGregor that wee bit as well, doesn't it?
It does. He gives us something different. He had 4 interceptions yesterday. See, there's my stats. There's my homework coming out. And he only misplaced 6 passes. But the area that he was in, his substitution was booed by the away support. His substitution was booed. Is it? And the amount of shouts in that away and going, what the hell are you doing, Rodgers? This is because at that moment, about 30 seconds before, he had just won about 3 challenges in a row and got us back up the pitch. Yep. What he was doing, he was actually pressing high and winning the ball back up high, or putting the press on high so Motherwell would lose it and they'd have to go long and we would just pick it up and come back again. Eh? And it was something completely, it allowed McGregor to do what McGregor had to do, and it allowed O'Reilly to do what O'Reilly had to do. Right, it wasn't perfect, it wasn't great, but it's something different that we haven't tried before. When you look at the other midfielders that we've got, the other midfield options, we haven't got one that can do that. We can talk about Odin Holm and that. They haven't showed that. Bernardo doesn't really do that, even though Alan Morrison's a massive fan of his defensive pressing stats. I haven't really seen it myself with the eye test. But the eye test yesterday, a lot of yesterday was, we could actually deal with you in a lot of games just to break up. If teams try long, you sweep up in that and allow O'Reilly and McGregor to do what they need to actually do. I think when Atati comes back, I think O'Reilly could be in a bit of danger if his form doesn't improve, because Atati's the only one that can do what O'Reilly can do, which is break the lines and carry the ball and dribble with it. Eh? So, he starts for me now. This is, I think we need to try something. And for what I saw yesterday, I was really, really impressed. And I remember that time when Sorrow and Turnbull came on, when the COVID season were off, what they were absolutely brilliant. It could turn out to be like that, and we could actually make an absolute idiots ourselves, but they had a great game yesterday.
Sorrow, wow. Ismail Sorrow, where is he now? Was he not playing in Jerusalem or something like that? I'm sure he did. He went there. I'm sure he went. Asim, we've been talking about recruitment. No, but the thing is, Jerry, it's easy to forget that he did have that positive impact that Kevin's talking about, to the point where he was linked to a move to Tottenham Hotspurs for £6 million. And wow. I remember the Hearts Scottish Cup final, which was obviously the delayed Scottish Cup final, which we won on penalties, and being gutted because he was out with food poisoning for that game. It was a big blow that he wasn't fit for the game. By the time he left, you'd have driven him to Jerusalem. Now, Asim, when we're talking about the recruitment, and you see a guy playing for Motherwell at 17 years of age, Lennon Miller, not just his part to play in the assist for the goal, and you look at him and you think to yourself, right, for me, there's raw talent on your doorstep. And how often have we seen raw talent, 17-year-old John McGinn playing for St Mirren, 17-year-old Lewis Ferguson playing for Hamilton. And there's a moment in that player's progression where you've got to bring him in and develop him. And I think that a player like that, for me, would be a much better development player to bring into Celtic, loan him back out to his parent club or somewhere else. I mean, I thought he was brilliant, 17 years of age. Why don't we look closer to home? There's been so many players that have slipped through the net in the past.
Yeah, I think sometimes you get talents which are just so blatantly, obviously going to make it, and I think he kind of comes under that category. I've seen him a few times now against us, and I think that's always the great test, is how they perform in the hardest games. And I think that's why John McGinn was such an obvious one, because every time he came up against Celtic, you felt this guy's quality. So 100%, what 17 he is. He made his debut at 16. The amount of appearances is already racked up. I seen there was chat. I think his dad was on another kind of podcast I seen a couple of weeks back, and obviously it's his dad, but he was just talking about his mentality as well, and just they really see a bright future for him. And yeah, he's playing in our league, like you said. That's why we don't go for these kind of players who are at that same age, if not younger, and playing really well and standing out, than going across to find, now by all accounts, Kone is doing well for St Mirren. But it just you're wondering, why did we have to go all the way to the Korea second division to find someone when you've probably got a guy who's better and even younger? So 100%, you get certain talents which I think just scream out at you, and you're like, this guy's going to be really, really good. So you hope that we're all over that, but I guess he's probably made enough of a reputation that there'll be teams from down south and elsewhere, especially with the recent kind of influx of Scottish talent going abroad and doing well. You look at the boys that have all been to Italy recently, and you look at Lewis Ferguson right now. Bologna are sitting fourth. He's captaining Bologna, and they're sitting fourth in Serie A, and he's going to get a big move soon as well. So I think there's a market out there right now that are looking for young Scottish talent. So we need to be quick off the mark Otherwise, you're right, we'll miss out again and it's far too late. So, I think we need to be careful. There are certain talents that I watch in Scottish football, and I know people are like, Shankland was one of them that everyone was like, we should have gone for, and I was never a big fan of that. Again, the age profile is completely different, but when they're at that age, if they're standing out, then I definitely think it's something we should be all over.
Yeah.
Strachan was always the best for that, wasn't it? Sorry for cutting in, but Strachan was always the best, I thought, for that, getting the players within a league. And because I think it was was it Hartley that he said about it? He says, why did you sign him? He says, well, every time we played him, he did really well, so I thought I'll just put him in our team. And there's
sometimes it's as simple as that, Jerry. Yeah, absolutely.
And by the way, I think I'm owed an apology for some people, because at the beginning of the season, I said Kone was going to play well this season, but I didn't say it was for Celtic, did I?
Listen, Jerry, I'm going to bring up your Scott Brown interview from last week because it was superb. It was very well received. I think about 14,000 people have watched it. And you spoke about Bruni going to Aberdeen and helping us to win the league. Now, Kone could do the same. When are St Mirren playing Rangers? I don't know. Not in the next 6 games or so, but it's going to happen, isn't it? It's written in the stars, Jerry, and you called it. You called it early doors, mate. Thank you, every single one of you. 1,300 strong on this Monday afternoon, tuning into a Celtic State of Mind. Please come back at about 6 o'clock tonight on the channel for a wander around paradise, where I will be joined by Jamie Tierney. Give us a big thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. If you want to come along and see us with Paddy McCourt in various different venues, or Martin O'Neill in Glasgow, ticket link is underneath this video. All that's left for me to say, Asim Rabani, Jerry Taylor, Kevin Graham, thank you for joining me on a Celtic State of Mind.